Okay, you guys, here we go. This is the Kern River Fly Shop Podcast. I'm your host, Guy Jeans, podcasting directly from the Kern River Fly Shop in Kernville, California. On this podcast, we discuss everything outdoors. We talk about conservation, music, and life. This episode is brought to you by Simms Fishing Products. Fish it well. Reddington Fly Rods. Find your water. Rio Lines, Leaders, and Tippets. Make the connection. And Costa Sunglasses, whose frames are made from recycled nets to help protect our oceans. I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's do this! Yeah, you guys. This is Guy. Welcome to the Kern River Fly Shop Podcast. I'm super stoked. I've got some friends here all the way from Southern California, Orange County, Long Beach, and one of them has moved up to Bishop. I have the Calico Syndicate here. I've got Keith Manamitsu. Hope I pronounced that right, brother.
Close enough.
All right, cool. Bill Calhoun, Todd Suttle, and Adam Perez, and then a couple of guys that couldn't make it, Vaughn Podmore and Dave Valadez. Welcome, you guys.
Yeah,
thanks for having us, man.
We've already
enjoying ourselves.
Yes, we've already had a couple beers and enjoying some time here together. But I want to get to know you guys, and as well as the audience wants to learn about you guys as well. But what I want to first talk about is, I've been friends with Bill Calhoun for many years, and I don't know if you guys knew this, but he was a Lion Eyes groupie, one of my band's groupies.
Big time. Anytime Lion Eyes played in Ventura, everybody was there. The funniest thing going.
The funny thing about Bill was really good friends with my brother Josh, and they would, for some reason, they would go around the town and go to all the bars and party and have fun. But they always ended up at the Lion Eye shows late at night, like maybe 1 in the morning or so.
So you got to see the best of us.
Yeah, it was good times for sure. So what I want to find out from you guys is what your day gigs are. We'll get into the Calico Syndicate here in a second. But Bill, what do you do for your day gig?
Well, I'm a residential real estate agent in Newport Beach. So I sell properties anywhere from LA County to OC County to San Diego, and I specialize basically in Newport Beach. And my biggest area is probably East Bluff.
Right on. Keith, what do you do?
I'm an independent marketing consultant, and I help companies sell more stuff through social media, video, online marketing campaigns and ads.
Which we'll get to, because the Calico Syndicate is very well marketed, and I think that has a lot to do with you, I'm sure. Todd?
So I am a high school teacher. I just completed today my 23rd year. This is our official last day of school, so this is a very timely trip for me. It's kind of perfect. It's been a challenging year with COVID and teaching from home. So yeah, I love teaching. It's great. I had a brief stint with Simms, working under one of my great friends, John Sherman, for about 2 or 3 years, which was awesome. But yeah, my job is a high school teacher, and I'm out for summer for a few months. So
you're already out?
Yeah, today was it. Today was the last day. So
that's the best thing about being a teacher. Huh?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam? Hey, well, I'm a civil servant. In a good way, I guess, but I'm an engineer. Recently, about a year ago, I was promoted to the aqueduct manager up there along the Eastern Sierra, up there in Bishop, California. So it's, they put a fly fisherman in charge of all the water supply to the city of Los Angeles. I'm not sure that was a good idea, but
big mistake.
No, it is a good idea. It's a good idea for us.
So I get to do the great job of balancing the water needs for the city of Los Angeles, obligations. That's my stick here, I got to say that. But, obligations in the Owens Valley and all that stuff, good stuff. It's a tough job, but I live in a beautiful place. So, family loves it. I love it. Fish about every day, tie flies, all that good stuff. So I'm definitely enjoying life.
That's cool, man.
Up there in Bishop.
I've known Bill for years, but I don't really recall how we all met. Do you guys remember like how you and I met, or?
Yeah, me and my buddy Scotty, who was the other executive producer on the Calico Syndicate, came up and we hired you as a guide, like
that's
in
right, yeah.
early 2000s, because we couldn't figure it out. We were up here struggling by ourselves. So.
It was just you two?
It was just me and Scotty, and then Miles came. Remember our buddy Miles?
Yeah,
he's the one that ate the steak at John McNally's.
The 40 ounce,
yeah, ribeye.
What about you, Tom?
You know what, man? If I recall correctly, I think we met at the carp throwdown. I think that was where we really met. I mean, we kind of crossed paths a few times, but I think that's where we really got to like fish together, hang out together, have a few beers around a campfire at night, and kind of really get to know each other, if I remember right. So, that's a great tournament. There's a carp tournament in San Diego, and there's one up here in Kernville as well, which is fantastic. So if I remember right, that's when we really met. And then I got to know you better when I was working with John. But the throwdown is what I recall.
Yeah, and what about Adam?
You know what, Guy? I have to say this, man. I met you at the Pasadena Fly Fishing Show. That was so many years ago. You probably remember me, man. But you signed my DVD. Fly fishing the Kern River.
Really?
Yeah, and you were like this star to me. No, seriously, man. I watched your videos. It was one of those deals. But you don't remember me. But from then, we've been just through social media and all that good stuff. But that's where it all started. Our bond, our love, dude.
I'm gonna interrupt real quick because this needs some attention. This needs some attention because, Bill's been in the fly fishing industry forever, and Keith is just the man. But Adam and I, we kind of we were grunts for a long time. So when this whole Calico Syndicate opportunity came up, I kid you not, there's guys I meet, and Keith corrects me. I meet guys, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, I've idolized you for so many years. And Keith's like, bro, you're embarrassing me. I recall meeting Brad Beefus with you, right? And I read his Carp on the Fly book in the early 90s, and I was enamored with this guy. And then once we did the movie, Keith's like, hey, this is my buddy Brad. He works at Scientific Anglers. And I'm like, oh, dude, Brad Beefus. I have all these highlighted parts, and I had these little tabbies in your book. No, for guys like Adam and I, honestly, man, you're you're the shit.
We've all watched your video.
It's just really, it's cool to I would never say be on the same area, but getting invited to things like this, it's a big deal, man. You're an icon in the industry, and there's a lot of guys that are. And now that we get to do this fun thing, it's great. But dude, I don't mean to be
no, this is
going
awesome.
over the top, but I'm just saying, dude.
We
appreciate it.
Thank you, man. So let's get it to where you guys. How did you guys all meet? And how did the Calico Syndicate start? And how did that all go
That's
down?
got to be a Keith question right there.
Okay.
Why, dude? Yeah. Bill and I met on Grindr, I think.
Was that before there was Tinder?
I think I met Bill first, right?
Well, you used to hire Webb.
I used to hire Brian Webb out of Bob Marriott's to go fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hired me.
And then, Webby couldn't make it. And then, so he's like, go with my friend Bill.
Yeah. And then you went to the FT.
But we fished together for a number of years before that.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years, probably. Yeah.
And then I couldn't make it to the show, the F3.
Then we just became friends. Yeah. And then I didn't have to pay for guiding. It was fucking awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
and we lived 5 minutes from each other.
I didn't think about that. That's right. You didn't pay after a while.
I brought the beer, and it was all good.
Where did you guys go fish?
Catalina.
Okay.
Up and down the coast, Catalina. We
mostly
fished the
mostly the MPLA
wall.
zones. Just kidding.
Well, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly. It was wide
That was
open.
before MPLA, though. So you guys are good.
That is true. That is true.
So then what? How'd you meet these guys?
So then I think I met Adam on Fly Flicker, which was a board, and I saw that he was fishing Newport Harbor, and I fished Newport out of a
before Facebook and Instagram. You had a board, which was similar to Fly Flicker, and there were some other ones, right?
Right.
This is I don't know when even this was. So then Adam posted something. He's like, "Hey, I'm going fishing. Does anyone want to go fishing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, shit, that's my fucking hole right there.
Yeah, man.
Mr. Pico Rivera, get the fuck out of town.
Get out of my water, you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. So I pulled up to Newport Harbor with my boat. I had this little dinghy, this little 14-foot skiff. I put Keith out there. We hauled the boat into the water, and he's like, I know all these holes. I know where all the spotties live and this and that. And then from then, we just started fishing together. It was a pretty cool bond. Keith and I would just fish. And then it was good times. We were always going out and just catching some good fish. And Newport Harbor was kind of where it all kind of going in there, catching spotties. Yeah. And then from then, it started off with Todd, right? I mean, through the
San Diego Bay
Days
with Dave Valdez, who's not here, organized this event, which I think you've gone to. Have you ever gone down there to fish The San Diego Bay Day is
No.
usually, no, you haven't.
I didn't do that.
So it's this event in January, and it's in San Diego Bay. We launch out a Glorieta, and so at that time I was fishing in Long Beach, but fishing by myself a lot of the time, and float tubing in the bays and stuff. And then I met Dave on this board, and he's like, dude, we have this event, come down. And so I drove down, I towed my boat by myself, and I met Dave and Adam, and then it just kind of started from there. And so then from that point, I knew Dave, I knew Adam. And then Adam's like, you got to meet my buddy Keith. And they were having a film tour in Long Beach, right?
Well, no, we met at Jack's before that, didn't we?
Oh, that was before.
We
You're
met
right.
at Jack's in Bishop.
That's correct. We talked about this on the way up today. Yeah. So Adam was trying to introduce us. We drive up north to fish trout on the Lower O. And Adam's like, you got to meet my buddy Keith. And so I was with my dad and my brother. And Keith was with Joe LeBou and Scotty, and we met at the restaurant and we fished on the Lower O. And Keith gave me my very first Superfly hat. I'll never forget. Like we met, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I got this down. I fished with Joe here for a while, and so I got this Superfly hat." And then I guess after that was the show, right?
Yeah, that was right after. Yeah. Right after that was the fly fishing film tour in Long Beach.
Okay,
and Shane Chung ran that show.
Shane Chung, all those guys. It was a good show, and it was funny because we all kind of met out the end of that. We were all like, we can do some of that stuff. Well, Keith said that. Yeah. Keith was like, dude, these movies were all right, but we can do...
some of them are really good and some of them are really bad.
Yeah. He's like, we can do this. And so we went to like some Mexican restaurant. I forgot the name of this thing.
Yeah, it was
so
right on Anaheim.
We all sat there, and then we all kind of, through that, just said, we can do this. Let's build up a project together and build this bro team to go after Calicos. And Keith... I don't know, Keith. You got the story, man.
Well, Bill and I we've been fishing the Calicos at the island for a while, and we were trying to kind of crack the code, because we knew some of the conventional guys, Benny Florentino and Jimmy Decker, and we're like, how the fuck are these guys catching
the most talented conventional fishermen on the West Coast?
I mean, and they happen to live, like Jimmy lives down the street from me, right? So it's like we had access to these guys with like huge knowledge, and we're like, there's such a big disparity, right, between fly and conventional. Like, what the fuck are these guys doing that we can't do, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of how it started for Bill and I fishing together, and we're like, we have to crack this code. Bill actually landed it would have been a record fish
at the time,
it had to be 2 ounces more than the record, and I think yours tied. Right. He landed a 6-pound,
3 ounce
calico on like 10
Dude,
pound.
Do you remember that day? So what we were doing, it was like 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, and we were fishing Calico Bass at Catalina, and we were on the inside, and we were throwing streamers across the top of the kelp patties and stripping them back as fast as you can. And so what we were doing also is
freaking double. Yeah.
So not only did we have hooks that were bend backs, but we had 2 pieces of monofilament over the top that were like 60 or 80 pound test.
Hard mason.
Wide out, hard mason. So you could throw a heavy line, throw it right into the weeds, and just pull it right through, and it would never hang up. And as you're banging the weeds, there'd be a small opening, and as soon as that thing hit the opening, those fish were already primed because they could hear that fly coming. Okay. And so when it hit that water, bam, they were on it, and we were getting boils right in those little 3 foot, 4 foot, little pockets. It was awesome. We had a really good time.
We had kind of the fever already. We're like, we're going to get an 8-pounder, a 10-pounder, right? Like we had delusions and grandeur.
The possibility was definitely there.
And that night was a lot like today, where we met before, we had Mexican food, we drank some beers,
a lot of beer.
Then we watched the film tour, and we drank more beer during that. And then after at the Mexican restaurant, we were there and we drank some beers. And then Keith, after in the parking lot, was super excited, motivated Keith, how he always is. He's like, dude, we can make a film. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, we can make a film, dude. Like, at that time, I was fishing the breakwall. I think Adam was too, mostly from the direction of Brian Webb. Brian Webb, I had a little 12-foot boat at that time, and he's like, dude, take that thing out to the inside of the breakwall, hit that kelp stringers, and you'll start catching fish. So we all kind of had that calico fever, and we all kind of knew about it. And Keith was the one that's like, dude, we can make a movie. And we're like, well, I'm a teacher. Working for we didn't know what to do, and
I had no idea.
Literally, a month later, I kid you not, Guy, we get this Kinko's made awesome book that's all bound and perfect
from
about
Keith?
this from Keith.
Yeah,
with all the sponsors that we have,
Yeah.
the sponsors. What we're going to do on this trip, where we're going to stay, how we're going to camp, where we're going to fish.
And the name.
And the name, the Calico Syndicate. And the sponsors, there was a great mission statement in terms of using less plastics and all these great things. And all of a sudden we have this, and I tell my wife, I have a meeting at the Yard House tonight where I'm going to drink beer with this guy Keith, and I think I'm going to be in a movie. I don't know what's going on.
I made them sign.
Literally.
I made them sign paperwork, waivers and shit. I had illegal contracts.
That's awesome.
And my thing, I'm like, Keith, dude, I have no money. I don't know. I can't invest. And he's like, dude, just all I need you to do is show up,
drink beer,
and fish. And I'm like, okay, dude, I'm your guy, dude. I'm your guy.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was crazy how it all worked out.
So, Vaughn and Dave.
Dave was part of the original crew.
Okay. And then how did Vaughn?
So what happened was we actually did a test run because Adam and I were trying to figure out how to get sink line really fast. Remember this?
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, here's the conventional guys, and they have all this junk, and they're throwing the lure, right, which is heavy, dragging the line down. Right? We're opposite, right? We're throwing the line that helps the fly go down. So we're like, how do we do this? And then Adam and I we had a bunch of heads, and then we came up with this thing where we took, what was that, T-17?
Yep.
T-17 head.
Which is what?
The Rio T-17.
Yeah, just the head. Just the head, yeah.
Just the head, okay.
It was like a 20.
And they used to sell them by the foot, right? You probably bought the spool.
It was like a 20-foot head, right?
There were spools of this stuff.
So then Adam and I attached it to suffix. You know what that yellow suffix was?
Like mono running line.
Yeah.
So then we went out on a test run with the guy who helped us make the film, Chris Aguilar, on Bill's boat in Long Beach Harbor. Remember that? And I remember the first cast. Adam chucked this thing like a country mile, and we're like, holy shit, we are on to something. It was like 200-foot cast, and we're like, oh my God, we're so dialed.
Yep.
And then so Adam starts stripping it back, and he catches a sandy, and all of a sudden it just went and wadded up into this Ben Wallace head, and we're like, okay, back to the drawing board. Because that stuff is super thin, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was hilarious.
It tangles in your stripping basket or your buckets. Yeah.
And if you got a big fish, it would burn your hand so bad.
So then what? What did you guys do? You started adding more?
So then Bill and I got together, right?
Yeah, and we went to Catalina, and I'd been guiding Catalina for years,
Right.
And Keith is like, dude, we got to get down further. We got to get down quicker. Faster, yeah. And so I'm like, okay, what are you going to do, And so was it you or me that had like a 400 grain shooting head and then added...
No, that was after we met. So then we went through this experiment, right, Bill and I.
Yeah.
Then Bill and I started getting into this, and Bill's like, how do we do this and all this stuff? And then I started buying lines retail, and I think I spent $2,000. Remember that?
Yeah, but this is before that. You remember we did a loop-to-loop connection?
No, that was after that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I had bought all these lines, and then, do you guys know Brent Dawson? He makes those gigantic flies, right? So I met Brent at somewhere. I don't know where I met him. He's like, take a T14, a Rio T14 custom tip. It's like 490 grams. I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
And he goes, take a T17, take your head that you're using on the suffix, and he goes, just make a loop-to-loop connection, right?
Yeah.
Which you and I know is horrible.
Because
So now we're talking about 40 feet of shooting head.
Yes, it was more. It was like,
it was
50 feet of shooting head.
Yeah.
So we go out to Catalina, and Bill could actually, at the end of the day, Bill was actually casting it, and it was working.
But before that, I mean, I was using a regular 350 or 400 grain line, and we were fishing this one spot, and he throws out, and he's telling me about this line. And I'm going, dude, you could break the rod. You could do
You're
this.
a fucking
this
idiot.
is crazy,
Yeah.
And he throws it out there, and he catches like a 3.5 pound calico. And I'm like, okay. I help him net it. We pull it in. He throws back out again, and I go up. I strip my line back out, and before I could cast, he's onto another fish. And I'm like, God damn it! And I went back there, and it's
Then I
another
caught a white sea bass. Remember that?
Then he caught a white sea bass, and then he caught a mackerel.
This is
that
in the
actually,
trial run that when we were all there, right?
We were all there, actually. Actually.
And then he caught a mackerel that kicked his ass, which was hilarious. And then,
I remember that. He got shit around the campfire that night.
I hadn't caught a fish yet.
And I caught like 10 fish, and they were all quality fish.
Yeah, it was an eye opener.
So I'm going to ask you guys. So a lot of people don't know. You guys, we know, the importance of a sinking line for Calico. But could you guys explain to the listeners why is it so important to have this full sinking line go down?
So I'll start, and then I'll let Adam. Can explain this better than me. But basically, out of the box, right? When you just went to the store at that time, and we're talking 2011, 12, right?
Yep.
2011. You could buy, I think, the T14, the Rio T14 custom tip. It was 490 grains. It was
if you
35 feet of sink tip and 100 feet or 80 feet of 70 feet of running line, intermediate running line, 35 feet ahead. So it was like 105 foot. And at the time, that was like pretty much the heaviest line you could get. Rio had made one 10 years before, the tungsten dredger. And it was 1,000 grains, but it never worked. No one ever liked it. You couldn't cast it. We actually had one.
We used to cast
one. It was called the Leviathan.
Yes,
I remember right.
And it was just level line, right? So then
with a monocore, which
Yep.
So that's kind of at that time. T7, what is it? T14.
T14,
14 inches per second, right? And
14 grains per foot.
Yeah. And
14 grains per foot. That's basically what happens there, with that line.
So we're counting down, right, until we feel bottom in like 17 feet, and we're like, we got to get down like twice as fast. This line needs to be like 800-900 grains, and we're like, how do we? And then Bill and I started Frankensteining these lines together, and then I just started spending thousands of dollars retail.
What did you make? 70 different lines?
75 different lines.
75, yeah.
Just totally like. Just out, like I was possessed, right? Like I quit working for a little while. I'm like, Bill, I'm gonna fucking figure this motherfucker out, right?
Yeah.
And then I called Kelly Gallup. I didn't even know him. I just called the shop, and he answered the phone. And I'm like, Kelly, my name's Keith. Me and Bill are trying to do this deal. We're trying to get down faster. And then he goes, well, I have my own line with 3M, and he goes, just call this. He's the engineer, right? And he goes, just call this guy, Tim, at some multinational gigantic corporation. And the guy goes, okay, you didn't hear from me, right? And he kind of gave us the formula of how to do it. And then we told Adam, the engineer, we're like, okay, Adam, here's the formula. You fucking help us make this thing, right? And then we made the first line that
no way, dude. Seriously?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man.
So the formula now is still like, we still make that line.
Yeah.
No way.
So here's
so who makes it?
Well, it's different.
It's homemade. It's homemade.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's homemade.
It's based upon a scientific angler's head. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's called, I don't even know what that thing's called. They have a 700 and a 850 head. And we thought bigger's better, 850 at first, but now we've learned that the 700 is actually the right one. And in the beginning, when you look at this head, it's super fat, right?
Yeah.
So it goes against all conventional wisdom, right? Like fatter line, it's going to slow down. We need it to sink faster. It needs to be lower diameter. All of that stuff, it doesn't matter unless you can cast it.
And just to clarify, like the reason he's talking about that is when we fish these calicos in these spots, you don't have a lot of time in an area, right? So you're on your trolling motor and you cruise into this spot and there's breakers behind you and you're in this little cove. So it's not the matter of all lines will sink, but they need to sink fast because you're in this zone for 10 seconds and then you got to back out before you get
I guess we should have said that, right?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
That's the thing that's the key is that you've got to be in and out of these areas where the big calicos live. And so when you, like the conventional guys, they cast and they have a quarter,
they're
casting ounce and a half head. So that thing casts and it's just dumps down, right?
Bottom,
So ours, if you can sit there and wait for 30 seconds, it's going to get down. But you don't have that option there.
Because the best fishing is in the most inhospitable situations.
If you go back and look at the video that during the movie, there's white caps everywhere, right? So you don't have a lot of time, and that's where the conventional guys prevail is because they get down quick. And we always had that slow sink. So the whole thing is not how much it sinks, but how fast. It's got to get down. You take a few strips, and then you back your trolling motor out.
And here's the other thing. there's a safety issue here. So if you're a conventional guy, you can cast 200 yards. So you don't have to be so close to where the waves are crashing up against the rocky ledges and stuff. We only have 100 feet unless we do something custom, right?
Yeah.
So we got to be really close in. So that thing has to get down to depth right now.
Right. Okay.
You know, before we have to back out of there. So the other thing is, it's a one back cast and then throw. Mm-hmm. Because that thing has so much, you don't have to false cast. You know, I mean, maybe 2, 3 if you have to, but you could only do one and throw it. And that mass will pull a fly through the air that's enormous. And that's where you're going to get those big calico bass.
Okay.
And that's how the whole movie basically started, was like us trying to figure this whole thing out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about the movie here in a second, but I want to go back to the calico. So for people that don't know, calicos are how deep? I mean, you guys are talking. You guys got
2 feet.
2 feet to 60.
I think your big fish, Keith, and that one you caught at Santa Barbara, that thing was deep, man.
It was probably 20.
Yeah. So you got to basically go from just right off the rock. I mean, you're at times you cast your line right on that break wall. I mean, you're instantly bit. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to pull it off a little bit, and then you at depth, then you get bit. So it all depends on what's going on with that fish and what's going on with the water, with the current,
situational,
nighttime, daytime.
Nighttime
calico fishing, like we've all done.
Yeah.
Like that thing hits the water, and you're
on.
Those fish aren't worried, so they're up top.
Yeah.
During the day when the sun's out, they sink down lower. So at night, it's game out. You can fish at 250.
The first big fish
good.
that we got on film in the movie came in like 4 feet of water. Todd threw in these rocks, and he caught like a 6.5 pounder, and that was the first big one on film. And it was in
it was up top,
less than 5 feet of water for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you ever in Ventura fished the Lock and Cheetah Pier, going out to that island?
I used to float tube that.
Did you?
Yeah. Oil pier.
And
I fished for almost a year before I caught my first saltwater fish on a fly rod. I was ecstatic when I got the head beyond the tip of my fly rod. That was like Valhalla for me, right?
Right.
So I was working Ventura Sport Fish, and this guy came up to me and he goes, "Hey, if you go up to, I think it was Elwood Pier," he goes, "There's a bunch of white sea bass up there." And he goes, "But you didn't hear it from me." And I said, "Okay, I'm good." I got my caddis float tube, went up there. I tied the most god-awful fly that resembled a sardine as best as I could. And I went up there and I started throwing this thing around. My first fish was a 26-inch white sea bass, and it was on an E-glass Fenwick rod.
Nice.
So, sweet. Yeah, so that was it. I was hooked, and it all happened from that.
Yeah. So rods, what kind of rods are you guys using out there?
Yeah, we started off with some 4-piece, really fast action, and then these 1-piece rods came out from Hardy.
Right.
I forgot
Pro Access.
Yeah, the Pro Access series, and it was our first kind of series of these 1-piece rods, and Keith ordered an 11 weight and a 10 weight. Those were the 2 rods that kind of went with us on that first version of the movie, and one piece sticks. And these rods, just the way that they were able to cast some of these heavier lines, really started to just show us the benefit of using the 1-piece sticks. And then also when you hook that fish at that depth, man, you were able to you could just really just pull on. You don't have that ferrule issue. Because I was fishing an XI 310 weight, and I hooked this really nice big fish, and it's a 4-piece rod, right? It's a sage rod. I blew it up. I mean, probably because
I remember that.
Remember that day? I mean, it was like a freaking.
Sounded like a grenade.
It was violent.
It was crazy, and it was because during the day of all that casting, I pulled off of that ferrule.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I hooked this big old calico at depth, and I'm all yanking on it, and the thing just blew up.
I think I cried a little on that day.
Was that your rod?
I just love that rod.
We got hit by shards on the other rod.
Dude, that was crazy.
Bill used to have the electrical tape all around. Remember, you used to wrap everything with electrical tape.
That's a spade rod.
And everyone would say, "Why you guys like calicos?" Like most guys are fishing 6 or 7 weights, and we're 11 weights a tarpon rod. We're like, well, the thing is it's about the line, and it's about you got to get that fish out of trouble quick. If you want to target those big ones, you're not. If it takes drag, you're done.
Well, and with an 800 grain line, it's going to loosen up those ferrules a little quicker.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it did.
And those
One-piece
bass
rods are awesome.
Those bass are like looking to get right into the rocks,
Totally.
right?
As soon as you hook them, you
out.
can't let them turn.
It's
You're
the
done.
junkyard dog of the ocean.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's one big point about anybody wanting to calico bass fish. Whenever you make your cast, you got to go tight and hold on, because if you let any line loose and if that guy hits, you lost it. I mean, I've been on the break wall, just kind of like where we're just kind of hanging out, and I've just lost my thought on it. I mean, it took it straight into the rocks, and it was a big fish. It's done. I mean, you gotta. It's so lucky to get a nice calico to the net. It's because he wants to go bury himself in there. You got to turn his head instantly, and if you miss that opportunity, you've lost him.
There's no
way
fish
to
on
bring
the
him
reel.
back.
There's no fish on the reel. Like the reel you use is absolutely unimportant. All it does is hold your line. Every fish you're stripping in. It's a tug of war with line as quick as you could strip it. There's no reel at all that's even you. Like, I mean, luckily we've all been blessed from our friend Keith, and that we fish, you know, these great hatch reels and this and that. I mean, they're awesome, but realistically, all the like it just holds your.
But we don't have any hatch reels.
We do catch yellowtail and stuff like that
We
too.
do.
It's not
We
just
use
about
them,
calicos, but the other thing that I want to specify is we do talk a lot about this heavy line thing, and that's because that's something that we feel we came across and it worked really well.
It's really cool.
But it's a tool in your box. It's not something that we're saying you have to use. You know, but when the conditions present themselves and you can't get down with something else, this is a really, really good way to go.
That's a very good point, Bill.
Yeah, it is. And like we said, night fishing, we don't ever use some night fishing, right?
No.
I mean, when you used to live down by me and I used to be able to night fish, now that you moved to Bishop with your family and you have your awesome little aqueduct job
Todd.
and this and that.
I'm sorry. My
Like,
career, my life,
I
my
know,
family
dude.
came in front of you. I'm sorry.
You know, it's just.
I
it's
wish you were more
upsetting,
important to
dude.
me,
It's
but
upsetting.
you
I'm just
are.
saying,
You are important.
We
I do
used to
love you,
night fish
Todd.
a lot.
Okay,
and,
I love you. Okay, girls.
Sorry.
Okay, girls. So is brought to you by Sims Fishing Products. Fish it well. Reddington Fly Rods. Find your water. Rio Lines, Leaders, and Tippets. Make the connection. And Costa Sunglasses, whose frames are made from recycled nets to help protect our oceans. So let's talk about flies. And did you guys develop flies specifically?
We did. So we have some extremely good fly tires in this group.
Yes.
And so I do have to say that, you know, being a guiding for a number of years, nobody wanted to really share too much information with me. So when these guys asked me to come along, it was a compilation of ideas that came together at the same time. And I learned, I can't tell you how much. It's
awesome.
the quickest amount of learning I've ever had in my entire life when it comes to fishing for calico bass with a fly. Adam ties really well. Dave Valadez actually was like the premier guy. He tied this thing he called the Aztec, right?
No.
Aztec.
Aztec. Where did that come from?
What was it?
How many
The
fish do you
Aztec?
have, Billy?
It was the Thunderbird.
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 Well, you might want
Aztec.
to
Wait. Heard of the Aztec?
You might want to go back and check that out.
I'm gonna go back to the footage,
Please do. So he did tie this fly.
Hey, Dave and Adam are Mexican, so it might have been initially called the Aztec.
Well, mine was called a Mayan.
I don't know how it all worked out now.
Just check your facts. Check your facts.
Here we go.
So, anyways,
Thunderbird.
Hey, it wasn't called the Caucasian. I'll tell you that much for damn sure.
Or the chink.
we'll get past that at some point. But anyways, he started tying this fly. We absolutely loved it. I mean, it had the flare in the front, a great profile. It was big enough. It was long enough. It undulated. It was an absolute game changer. And Dave really followed the conventional colors of guys that were fishing the tournaments along the West Coast.
Nuclear chicken was the name
nuclear
of that.
chicken,
that color.
Yeah,
and so a very flamboyant fly, by the way. And so with the way that Keith and I thought, we were thinking, you know what, with the heavy lines, it's been working real well for us, high profile flies, all this kind of stuff. We're going to build a monstrosity of this Thunderbird with more weight. And because it was pretty flamboyant, we decided to call it the Party Boy for some reason.
Yeah. So, Dave wanted no part of that.
No part of it at all.
Yeah.
And by the way, this whole time we're fishing, we're doing the movie, Dave never threw a heavy line and caught a lot of fish. So, you know.
We all do our own thing, for sure. That's a good point.
Totally. But we finally did this Party Boy, and for some reason this thing caught the hell out of the fish. It's chartreuse and a bright pink.
What's the name of it? It's not bright pink. It's
It's
fuchsia.
No.
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia.
Yeah.
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia pink.
It's the
Fuchsia
big gold
bucktail.
Yeah,
nuclear chicken colors.
But
right?
but I think Billy, you got to talk about, we took Dave's fly. It was great. It's kind of a mix of a like a half and half with kind of a big clouser, and that's what Dave did. He took a half and half, and he just made it. With the chartreuse and the pink, with that fuchsia,
and it had some creature features
to it
too.
Had these big
pectoral fins,
fins, and it was all great. But I remember, his weed guard sucked.
Terrible. It was the loop.
Sorry, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
Your weed guard sucked. Your flies are out here to defend yourself.
Bro to bro, Dave, your weed guard sucked. And it was funny because...
And we were clipping them off at night after a whole bunch of beers.
No, but let me get to that, buddy. It was funny because we're filming this movie, and then I'm just like, this weed guard sucks. And I'm just like, I get Dave's weed guard, and I'm like, I love his fly. His weed guard sucked. And I started like clipping off his weed guard. And then I started going, well, I'm going to make a freaking better ass weed guard. So I just do the 2-prong, the mono out there, 80-pound hard mason. Yeah. And it was like so much better. And Dave looked at me like, I don't know, I said something bad about his family. Like, he's just
he just punched this kid in the face.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell are you doing to my fly, man? And I'm like, I'm sorry, Dave, your weed guard sucks, buddy. And then, seriously, the next day, that fly kicked ass because the weed guard was so much better.
And you have to understand, we're 20 beers deep.
Let's back this up. So the first sponsor that Keith got for the Calico Syndicate was Kona Brewing Company, right? I took care of business right off the bat, right?
We're on this porch of this lady who let us camp on her property. Who was Teresa. She's an amazing woman. She cooked us breakfast every...
Ted and Teresa McDowell.
Yeah, they're awesome. So we're sitting out there. We're 20 beers deep. We fished all day. The fly's getting hung up, and Adam starts clipping this fly off, and Dave looks at him like, you're a jerk. And he starts tying this other weed guard on. We're like, this could work, and it was awesome. And
to this day, the double, V weed guard is the money weed guard.
That loop.
No one uses the loop.
The thing is, that was part of the learning process, right?
80-pound hard mason.
Everybody used the loop back then, and now it's just 80-pound hard mason beat up
or 100.
Yeah. So was that your little invention?
Well, I mean, I think it's been out there quite a bit. I mean, but I just, for that day, because I think I was a little more sober than Todd.
Adam's our engineer.
I was able to kind of go,
Adam figures out all these weird things on YouTube that end up being, like, they're super quirky. He'll send me a text sometimes, and, like, that guy that sends the text that's, like, so long, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what's this guy trying to say? But he's an engineer, so he has all these facts in there.
I'm always thinking about things.
For sure.
His shit works.
Yeah.
It works. Todd, and so does Dave's. I mean, they're...
But Todd, whose flies do you fish the most, man?
Yours.
Yeah, thank you.
I do. Yeah.
See, this is what you don't know about the Calico Syndicate, right? On the surface, it looks like we're all fucking
no, we argue all the time.
But in the background, we're fucking calling each other names and going, fuck you, your fly.
Adam and Dave are the fly tiers of our group. I think everybody would agree to that. We all tie flies, but Adam and Dave are the guys that... They are the perfectionists. They are, Vaughn ties some awesome flies.
Vaughn ties awesome flies,
but Adam and Dave, they are the mad scientists behind the vice.
And can I talk to us about flies? Weird guy, because when I see a lot of calico flies out there, and I just want to say, the calico flies that people tie out there sometimes are just like half a chicken on a fly. I mean, calicos eat a lot of stuff. Yeah. But there should be something about a calico fly, the way it falls through the water column. It has to have a profile. It has to have a certain look. So I'll have to say this.
This is how his text sound.
No.
That shit long text I'm talking about, this is what it says.
That's why the fly's good, man.
Talk, mofo. So let me just say this, that there is something about that. And I take it a little bit personally because I do want a fly to look good.
We can tell.
Yeah. I do want the fly to look good. I mean, I take it personally, right? I do a lot of... So I think with a fly, calico fly, I know you can just put a half a chicken on a hook, throw it out there, and maybe you'll catch one.
Sure.
But you should have to consider the profile, the size, and then how it casts as well. Because you're on this boat that's bouncing around like crazy. Half of guys put on these big ass bunny strips and stuff. It's really hard to make a good cast when you got all that crap going on. Your boat's bumping around. Anyways, I've tied like an AP sculpin. I call it the AP sculpin. It's just a synthetic fly. When you do your back cast, you discharge all that water. You shoot forward, this thing basically lands where you need to go. And I think people need to consider that when they're tying the calico flies. Anyway, that's
that's
my message for the day.
It's really good stuff.
And it's a good message. And I would never doubt your flies, AP.
So what makes a good calico fly? I mean, is it like a certain size? It's the color. What is it that you
material?
like?
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of ventured to a couple of things. I mean, I like the synthetics.
Mm-hmm.
I do see a lot of flies out there with big bunny strips, and people always like, oh, the bunny strip's great because the way it moves in the water. When you strip a bunny strip, what happens to it?
Yeah.
It goes as tight. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like a string in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you stop it might flare, but when you pull it doesn't look like anything. Remember, you're trying to get this calico to look at your fly and to just suck it down. So the synthetic, it doesn't do that. Synthetic keeps its profile.
Nice.
Right when it falls, you just basically pull on synthetic. So what my favorite fly is basically a little bit of SF on the back end, a little bit of like some EP or some scope fiber in the center of it, with a nice little bit of like that scope and helmet on it.
Yeah.
That's a money fly. And you put the pecs on it, the big kind of like you put out some nice kind of flashy pecs on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great fly to me. And what I do is I'll do like a mixing, almost like the swim bait style.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do like an olive over orange, brown over orange, red over orange. That to me is of a freaking money fly. And that's been the best. I mean, I know guys are out there trying to tie these big old chicken flies.
Yeah.
Just take it back a little bit. Think about how that thing kind of falls in the water. Think about stripping it in the area, and that's what I think is with the best flies that I've fished.
That's good stuff.
And just to add to that real quick,
Adam's
not afraid to upset the fly community. He's not. So I fish with him plenty at night, and Adam does underspins. He does all these different things that have spinners on them. He does rattles. The thing about our crew is, I think we all agree.
We've gone to the dark side from time to time.
I mean, the best fishermen, the guys that we all look up to, in terms of calicos, they are all conventional guys.
Yeah.
We're not like, okay, hey, you don't fish a fly, we're not down with you. No, bro. Like, whatever you fish, we want to hear it, right? So Adam ties these weird ass rattling flies with like big spinnerbait things that you fish at night, and
the underspin, dude.
That thing is the underspin is great. So it has a spinner blade, a spinner bait blade on.
Yeah, the war bait underspin is a freaking money bait that the conventional guys use.
And
why can't we do that?
No, he'll post something on his SoCal Fly Tying, Instagram, and he'll post it, and people will be like, well, why don't you just conventional fish? Well, we want to fly fish with this. It's a fly with a little bit of an underspin.
And it's handmade, right? That's the whole key, right?
And it makes some motion at night. So I think one of the bigger parts of our crew, too, is we're not afraid to try new things. Keith's
100%
dealing with these big, heavy lines. He's putting spinner baits, spinnerbait blades on these flies. But when it all comes down to it, what's it about? It's about catching some big fish, man, and having fun, right?
Absolutely.
So if someone's going to scoff at you,
I love it.
At least you got 5 other guys behind you to back you up.
Yeah.
Right?
There are no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules, man. It's fishing.
So are you the runner of the SoCal Fly Tying?
I'm SoCal Fly Tying.
You are?
So I'm Instagram, SoCal Fly Tying.
Okay, cool.
You can find me there.
Awesome.
I post probably every week I fish. So you're going to see bass, carp, trout, and flies.
Right.
So that's who I am.
And they work.
Cool. And they work. And Todd, I love
fish his flies all the time.
We just fish Pyramid, and he used all my flies.
I did. I do different things for AP. I'm not going to get into the details because I have this giant microphone in front of me right now, so I don't want to really talk about some of the things I do for Adam. But we do different things together, and but he provides me with flies. I'm just saying. But what are you talking about? No, I mean I'll tie leaders for him.
Yeah.
I help you out with your boat lighting. We're gonna rewire your trailer here, so I'm pretty good at electrical stuff, so I can do that. He'll give me a dozen flies. I built an awesome pyramid ladder for you.
You did.
And he's all, dude, what do I owe you for the ladder? It's money. I go,
flies.
12 AP flies, man. That's all I want.
Flies.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say, the cool thing about our crew is that it's not like one of those things we just like a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
We still fish. We still hang out. We still drink.
Yeah.
We do all the fun stuff. We're still buds, man. And that's the one thing about, like, you see these movies, you're like, are those guys even friends? I mean, after that movie, dude, we're still friends. We're still, I fish with Todd probably more than anybody, but these guys have been going up to Bishop, hanging out with me, fishing on the lower O. I just saw some buddies last week on the upper. Like, we just hang out, and we love it. hanging out with each other, seeing Bill get all stupid drunk. I mean, it's the greatest.
Just only me. Really? Yeah. You believe that, right?
So, okay, so you guys are this group and everything, and then you have this mastermind marketer, Keith. And so, Keith, what was in your mind when you were developing this whole Calico Syndicate? I mean, what was the whole thing?
I mean, I absolutely took it from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
But Bill and I had been going down the whole, we're going to break the fucking Calico. We're going to break the all tackle record, right? Like, we had delusions that we're going to catch a 16-pound calico on the fly rod.
Is that what the record is?
It's 14.9 or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So, but which I still think is possible. I think somebody could do it.
Well, you caught an 8-pounder on the show, so yeah.
Well, it's and he hooked one that was bigger than that probably, and he didn't land it, but we came up to the we saw it. It was freaking.
We all
it looked like a grouper.
We hooked some really big calicos.
We hooked a lot of record fish that we just didn't have the ability to land, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. At that time, it was more like, I'm not going to create a marketing thing. It was like, let's do this movie, but let's take it from a strategic standpoint and kind of kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. So the interesting thing I think that we all found, and this was like the first kind of twist, I think, to what we were doing, was we had actually hooked up with this line engineer and gave us the formula, and we'd actually made the line, the heavy line. But we posted we intentionally posted a YouTube video saying we're trying,
I saw
it's
that.
not like we duped people, but we were curious about what the reaction was, because we really knew that whenever you go against tradition and conventional wisdom, you're going to take a fucking beating, right? And we did, right? We did. And the only reason why we survived is because we knew it was bullshit, because we had already done it, right? But we came across like, hey, because we wanted input, and it wasn't perfected yet, and we wanted, people's input to see if anyone was doing this, and really nobody was.
And I will say, when Keith approached me with this whole heavy line idea, as you know, being in the industry as long as you have, when you go against the grain or you go against conventional wisdom, people are going to tell you things that they told us. You're going to break a rod. You can't cast a 900 grain rod on a 10 weight rod, or a 900 grain line on a 10 weight rod. And I thought that too. I'm like, well, we could break rods, Keith, and we went out there and we started doing it.
And there was like industry people that like we didn't know that I really looked up to. Like, we're talking some of the biggest names in fly fishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one guy in particular is like, you're a fucking idiot. And I'm like,
well,
you were like my hero like 3 seconds ago, but now you're a fucking douchebag. It's like, it was interesting because we had already done it. That's the whole thing, right?
So Guy, the reason I thought this was going to be an impossibility is because I used to take 14 weight sage rods with 1,000 grain Leviathan in Costa Rica and fish the deep channels for tarpon and all that stuff. That was hell casting that stuff. But you got to understand why. That 14 weight rod shut off way towards the tip. So you've lost complete leverage there. Cast that on a 10 weight rod and it bends way down toward your hand and you gain leverage there.
Got it.
So it's much easier to cast. The big caveat were the new rods able to take that kind of pressure?
Real fast action.
Well, they are. Yeah. They are. And we actually got so into this thing, we did a whole seminar at the Long Beach Fly Casting Club and invited all these people. Some of these people were like brand new to fly fishing. One, Craig Bond, right?
Yeah.
Dude, we took Winston rods, we took Sage rods, we took Loomis rods, we took Echo rods. We did all these different rods and we put all these different heavy lines on it and just allowed anybody to cast them. And it came out the Echo 3, the Echo 3, and the Sage XI3,
and the XI2.
And there was actually, what was the other rod that was so cheap that worked really well? A Temple. No, the Temple Fork.
The Temple Fork.
There was a Temple Fork.
And there was like $100, like a $99 Ross rod. Remember that? They sent us and we're like, this fucking thing's never going to work.
Like,
who's going to just bomb and cast?
Who's going to tell you, that any of the... We didn't care. We didn't care what came through. We were going to be honest with everybody. Yeah. And I mean, the reason I mentioned Craig Bond is because that guy was a fairly new caster, and he was bombing the 900 grain line. So it was like, if somebody like that can do it, this is real,
That's cool.
And the funny thing is about that is when it all comes down to it, I think we made more friends in the conventional world than we did in the fly world. Really, like a bunch of the conventional guys, like we kind of got their respect, like guys that have a huge name in our area, Benny Florentino, Jimmy Decker, these guys, Mike Lane, Scotty Pethel. I mean, these guys are like, hey, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? How you doing this? How you doing that? And that was awesome. I mean, a lot of the fly people initially, like Keith said, were very standoffish, didn't want any part of it. But the conventional guys were like, dude, you guys are freaking doing it, and they were just into it. And then we started making friends with them and doing events with them. Then we, when we did the film tour, we had those guys out.
Cool.
Hey, this is the thing, man. Like, just fish, dude. Like, fish. Have fun. Catch some fish, regardless of how you're doing it. And so if we can bring some of the conventional guys into what we're doing, and then they have questions about, like, hey, dude, I want to go up to Crowley. I want to fish some stuff at Crowley. I want to come to the Kern. I want to fish. I want to see what's up. Hey, cool, dude. Take me out on your Calico boat, and then we'll take you up to the Kern. And we'll make it. Like, we'll work it out. But the conventional guys getting their approval was, I mean, no disrespect, but it was more important than that. The community.
Once they kind of saw what we're doing, like guys like Benny, like they gave us a shit ton of information that we it would have taken us years to figure this shit out, right? And they were willing. They saw that we were sticking our necks out, and they were just willing to give us information, which was the game changer for us, right? We learned about fish habits and where they went at certain times of year,
baits and how the baits swim, and this and that. We get this information, and then Adam can go to his 30 goddamn line text that's about this and that. But all of a sudden we know how these baits swim. I mean, you fish with a guy like Benny. That guy drags his bait through the water before every cast, and sees how
very methodical. About
they're just their attention to detail, right? And so then we have Adam and Dave that go and tie these flies, and
I mean those guys are like pros. Those guys are like, they may not get paid like what these guys are freaking pros. Like the way they carry themselves, the way they how they treat their equipment and their methodology. These guys are freaking as good a pros as anybody. They just happen to be fishing in a saltwater that there's no money in it.
Engineer Adam,
what's up, man?
So what are the advantages and disadvantages of fly fishing for calicos?
So Bill talked about it. You're trying. The gear guys can be a little further off the kelp. Okay. If you watch a gear guy fish kelp, he's putting two guys on the bow, two guys are shooting their lines out, basically ounce and a half. Both their baits are flowing at the right depth, the right timing. You put two guys at the bow of a boat, with fly lines, it's not going to work as great. So you got one guy in the front, one guy in the stern, trying to make your cast, trying to get that fly to go down the right depth, trying to get that line to, it's just so many disadvantages. But and the thing is too, is that those guys are using straight braid. Right. I mean, those guys are using non-stretched line. Yeah. When they hook a fish, they can hook a 4, a 5, a 6 pounder. When they, set that line, that fish is boom out of that rock, right? What do we got? We got this freaking stretchy ass line that when you set, you're lucky. If you basically pull that fish even a tiny bit out of its hole. Yeah. So you're so behind with the fly rod. Yeah. So I mean, it's like that's why the thing is important. For us is to get that fly down. And I know some guys are gonna say, well, I don't need a heavy fast line. Certain times you do. Certain times it's really important. It depends on the water conditions. Yeah, if you're fishing at night, so be it. I mean, it's so still out there that you don't really need a heavy line. But you're fishing in the boilers, the stuff that we were fishing, where this rock is, the water's pounding, pushing up, pushing back. You need that line to basically get down fast, get that fly down fast, get to them fast, and then when he hits it, you're pulling his butt right out of that freaking rock. So it's completely different for us on the fly with the fly lines and the fly rods, and also the twos on our rods. I mean, we got. That's why these 10 weights, the 11 weights are real important because they're super fast. Yeah. Super kind of like when you basically strip and you pull on those suckers, you're basically able to pull on those fish and pull their mouth. If you're using like a wonky 8 weight, or a wonky 9 weight, and you do that and you got all that flex in that rod, you're not going to be able to do it. So that's where us with a fly rod, we really got to work hard. And that's why these things that we did at the Calico Syndicate, I mean, it was such a cool, kind of like, just everything from the lines, the rods, the lines to the flies. I mean, there's just so many things that we put together to, as a core group. We all brought something to the table. Even Skinny Todd with his beer drinking. I mean, I have to say,
I'm all right. I've been fishing a little bit. I mean, no.
I'll have to say this about
like beer.
I'll have to say about Todd. Todd has the best cast off of the stern. I gotta say, buddy, you got the best cast off the stern that I've ever seen in my life. He has the ability to because obviously the guy in the point, off the bow, he's able to make his nice cast fly it out there. Todd usually takes the stern, and he's able to water haul, but
you have the back of the boat when you're on another guy's boat.
Yeah,
so
but
you gotta learn how to backcast.
But Todd, why are you there? Because the beer's there.
Probably should.
So now, hang on a second. He said that was a two-part question. That was the disadvantages and advantages.
Oh, advantages.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any advantages?
The flies.
Do you want me to take that one?
Thank you, Bill. No, Bill. I'll let you take that one.
All right.
Bill has kind of like a radio voice. Do you guys notice that?
Yeah,
that's
he's being very serious tonight. No edibles tonight, beer?
We're
Bill also
talking
has a radio.
fly fishing.
Bill also has a radio thing.
We can talk beer or fly fishing. Either one. Very serious.
Bill, please let me know about your advantages of fly fishing.
Vaughn Podmore and I have both experienced this, where you have the cattle boats out there, they're throwing chum, they're trying to catch fish and everything. It's the beginning of the season. All the bait's really small. They don't have anything that matches that. They can't catch that small bait in the nets and chum it, right? It fits through the nets. So as fly fishermen, we're tying these smaller patterns, and they are pulling their hair out because we're smoking fish, and it's not small fish. It's just small bait, So
nice.
Okay. Definite advantage there.
Got it.
And if you go into a place like Bob Marriott's and take a look at all the materials that are in there, that's 7,000 square feet of nothing but pure fly fishing equipment.
Yeah.
And their materials are vast.
Right.
You go in there and check that out. If you're a good fly tyer like Adam and Dave, you can match anything you want.
You're pretty good too, Bill.
Thank you. And so what's really cool about this whole situation is that Southern California fly fishing in the saltwater is still a new frontier.
Yeah.
And so we're always developing new flies, always thinking about different baits, and just trying to match that stuff and figuring out new stuff. I mean, Vaughn started catching fish, or I should say he was catching yellowtail with a red pelagic crab pattern, and smoking the yellowtail. I caught my first one 2 years ago on that pattern, and I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. And the cool thing about that is normally when a fly fisherman fishes for yellowtail, they're using a bait fish pattern, and it's very difficult because you have to almost strip in with two hands to get the speed. With a pelagic red crab pattern, I caught mine on the sink.
Yep.
Total game changer. Now I can take my wife out there, who has the ability to strip that fast and catch a yellowtail on a sinking fly.
Nice.
I mean, it's awesome.
Right on.
And I think just to add to that thing, that VP red crab, it's funny because I started tying that crab for Bob Marriott's. I tie that that pattern for them, and it sells out really fast because it's a Vaughn Podmore is a legend in SoCal, right? So I mean, I just kind of copied his pattern, put it into the fly shop, it sells. But the benefit of that pattern, just like Bill said, is that these fish are so geared on that red pattern, and as it falls, you get blue perch, calico, everything eats it, and it's such a great summer pattern. That VP red crab, I mean, it is money. Vaughn Podmore, we call it the panty dropper because it is just one of those.
Not so appropriate.
Not so appropriate. But
sorry, daughters.
No, I'm sorry, panty droppers. But it's just one of those patterns that just gets eaten. It is just one of those great things.
You're hoping it gets past the calicos and the blue perch to get to the quality fish.
It is a great freaking pattern, and it's super simple, super awesome.
And that being said, real quick, we've kind of highlighted Adam and Dave as the fly tires, and Keith and Bill as the line guys, and me as the beer drinker. But
Yeah, we got that.
everybody can do everything.
accurate.
That's accurate.
I mean, I just want to say, like, Bill ties awesome flies, right? Like, we all do. Like, Vaughn is an awesome fly tire, but it's just when our crew came together, certain people took certain roles, and you know, somewhat from the direction of Keith, and somewhat just letting it happen organically. But like, we all come together, and we kind of know our roles in this particular group that we're in, you know. I mean, there's 5 of us, and we all have our certain things that we do, and but we can all do, you know, we can all do it all. We can all tie flies.
Vaughn actually came in like we had already been halfway through the movie, and we realized that we needed another boat.
Yeah.
And that's where Bill had already been for. I didn't even know Vaughn, and we met at Duke's, remember, in Huntington Beach.
Take one.
Oh, cool.
And like after like 10 minutes, like Vaughn and I had parallel lives on different continents, right? Because he grew up in South Africa, and I grew up here in Southern California. But we had like done all the same things, a lot of the same things, not all the same things. But he came on that next trip in September, right? And it was a game changer.
Game changer.
He brought so much knowledge and like just
said,
this demeanor, right? He never gets frazzled. Like everything is can do. Don't worry about it, you know. And it's like he brought a whole different element. And if you look at the footage from before Vaughn was there, it was good. But like when Vaughn came in,
he's a huge addition.
It changed the whole paradigm.
He's a legend, man.
Yeah.
Vaughn is really just.
And after that, it's like we had this period of like 5 months where we sat around and just did this with nobody else looking. We're drinking beer, exchanging ideas, talking about the lines, talking about the flies. And that was like some of the best times ever.
Absolutely.
Because nobody was above anybody else, and we were all learning this shit. Like
it was collaborative effort.
And it's like everyone had thrown their cards on the table and said, you know what? It's like we're all in the same position. Let's just learn off of each other and bring all this. And it was like, I mean, it's
crazy.
At the risk of sounding like
No,
it was like a magical
right, man.
time.
Yeah, no, it was.
So the thing
It was
is,
like a magical time.
So no, when it all comes down to it, like honestly, guy, we're
was
all
gay, but-
like we're all. It's super
But it
gay.
was.
No, but I'm gonna elaborate on the gayness of it because like we're all married, we all have kids, we all have like lives and responsibilities and this and that. But there was a brief period of time where the Calico Syndicate was a priority. We all got together. We all did these things.
Well, we had the same goal in mind.
And since then, you know, I mean, everybody moves on, right? And we're all really good friends, but like Adams and Bishop, Vaughn is busy. Vaughn guides 280 days out of the year.
He could guide every single day of the year if he wanted
and
to.
so we're all busy, but when we get together, man, it's like
magical.
old times.
It's magical.
It's like old times, you know?
It's like the Bad News Bears.
Like there was a
80th
time when I
reunion,
told
right?
my wife, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go have beers with these guys. Like, we're making a movie," and she's like, "Cool, you're making a movie." So now I'm like, "We're gonna go have beers. I'm gonna go have beers with Keith," and she's like, "Jesus, how many days are you be gone?" You know, but it's all like it's so much fun. We all get together.
The cool thing for me was when I worked at Marriott's, I used to host trips all over the world, and those were fantastic trips. I've never had a better time than fishing with these guys at Catalina, you know, in my own backyard. Right. And so what most people in Southern California don't realize, which is the biggest fly fishing market probably in the world, is they all think they have to spend lots of money to travel and go to these fancy lodges and all that stuff when it's right there.
Exactly.
They don't get it, you know. So that's unfortunate for them and maybe fortunate for us.
Pretty amazing. So is brought to you by Sims Fishing Products. Fish it well. Reddington Fly Rods. Find your water. Rio Lines, Leaders, and Tippets. Make the connection. And Costa Sunglasses, whose frames are made from recycled nets to help protect our oceans. You know, the film, like the first film that you guys did, and the whole vibe. I want to talk about that is the whole Southern California vibe. And I mean, it was just beautiful. I thought it was very well made.
Thank you.
But, like the sun setting on the palm trees, out on the, boat, and the boat's rocking, and you guys are casting. By the way, has anybody ever fallen off?
No.
You guys got good surfer balance.
Yeah, I don't think anyone fell in.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
I almost went in a few times.
Dude,
Lots of bruises.
Looks pretty gnarly out there.
Yeah, we broke
sometimes.
rods. I mean, there's been times I broke a
I hit
rod on
myself
Dave's
with a fly.
boat.
Yeah.
The hardest it is to stand in the boat, the better the fishing is.
Yeah.
Usually.
Right. Everything's moving around. But the vibe, it was almost like a surf movie slash. I think you're kind of going for it.
Yeah, that's how I approach it because Chris Aguilar
was a surf guy.
he never fished. I don't think he even ever fished in his life, right?
No,
and that was the whole point. I'm like, I want to make a surf film about fly fishing.
Well, it has
great.
to be
It was-
conducive to Southern California.
Yeah,
So,
I wanted it
was
to reek
only-
of that. And
One of my favorite parts is all of his terms he learned from us, right?
Yeah.
Like, this fish hung me to dry.
Yeah.
This
Eat it, motherfucker.
Eat it, motherfucker. There's all these things. He's like, what are you guys even talking about? And like, dude, it's like, eat my shit, dude. Eat my shit. Come on. It's just. And
he fucking spanked me.
I got railed. It's like, dude, what is. Like, I know what railed means, but what does railed mean for you guys? So there was a whole. Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
So Keith calls me up, I don't know how many years ago it was, but he's like, hey, I'm doing this big party down at Tustin.
Oh, that's right.
What was it called? The Tustin
District.
Tustin District or something like that. Man, I want you to come. I'm throwing a party. I'm having a band, and there's going to be people there. I'm going to have beer sponsors and all that stuff. And dude, I want you to come and this and that. I'm like, oh, dude, I'll come. And I went down there, and it was like, I think the Whelan brothers were playing.
No, it was Moonsville Collective.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Did the Whelan brothers play?
They played the last
one of
year
the
we
later
did it.
ones.
Okay.
The last
By
one
the
we
way,
did.
those guys are friends of mine.
Love those guys.
Those guys
Love
come up
those
here
guys.
and fish quite a
Oh,
bit.
they're awesome.
Yeah, and but the whole thing about that, again, your marketing, was mind-boggling to me. I think the thing sold out.
The first
it's
year
not-
sold out in
yeah.
about, I think it took a month and a half to sell that first one out.
Yeah.
The next year sold out in about a week.
Yeah.
And then the last one sold out like so the way we looked at it is everyone who came the year before had first
Yeah.
dibs.
Yeah.
So an hour before we were to
Yeah.
release the tickets, we sent out an email that said, okay, these things are good for an hour. And I think the last one sold out in like 6 minutes, right?
So the other thing is when Keith approached the guys from the Fly Fishing Film Tour and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
look, we're going to sell all our tickets online." They actually told us later. They go, "We thought you guys were just dead in the water."
We became friends
Nobody's-
with those guys, but at first they're like, "You're a fucking idiot."
Yeah. And we sold out big time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, somebody's got something here."
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty amazing. Didn't you have like, beer sponsor, type
Everything was free.
Whiskey,
and
yeah,
everything.
High West.
High West.
The owner of High West at the time, the founder of High West, I think he was a fly fisherman. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, dude," he's like, "I've seen your movie, this and
Yeah.
that." He's like,
Yeah.
"I'm all in."
Yeah, we had giveaways, huge giveaways.
And how about Oscar Blues?
Yeah,
They
we had-
were a huge
Well,
sponsor
Kona was
of
the
ours.
sponsor of the film, and
Right.
then Kona was sold during the making of the film to Anheuser-Busch, I think, right? And then so it changed, and then Oscar Blues came in the next year and was with us.
To the end.
I remember Keith told me, he's like, dude, you're from Downey. I know you live in Long Beach. You got to go with me to pick up this beer, like for a film tour event. So we go down to this warehouse in Downey, like in this back
Like
lot.
a mental institution.
Yeah,
right?
dude,
I've been there.
it was at that.
Yeah, dude.
San
It was
Andrino.
kinda
Metro.
creepy.
The Metro.
So it's
Yeah.
super creepy.
Yeah.
And we go back, and these guys.
Yeah, it was weird.
I shit you not. They put up pallets of beer
In the
And
back
I'm
of my
like,
wife's
dude,
car.
I'm like, where are we? Like, this is unreal. This is thousands of dollars, and there was none left when the tour was over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately-
I remember when Kona got sold. I called these guys. I'm like, dude, we have a fucking big problem, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I think we just lost our beer sponsor.
No, Oscar Blues came in big. They were a huge sponsor for us for a few years.
You had whiskey too, didn't you?
High West.
High West.
High West.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the whiskey
That was
company.
High
yeah.
West, and
yeah.
it was
So
it was free.
When we
50
signed,
shots.
when we got that sponsorship with Kona Brewing Company, they gave me an 800 number, and they go, "Okay, when you need beer, call this number and tell the guy what you need, and they'll bring you beer." And I'm like, "Bring me beer, right?" So then Todd's like, "Fucking call that number right now, right?"
Because we're working in his garage.
In my garage, yeah.
Keith is the most organized human that I know. So we have these Excel spreadsheets of like the raffle prizes and this and that. And I was the voice of the raffle and whatnot. But Keith, dude, he had this all laid out, and he's like, we got free beer, and I'm like, cool, dude, tell him to keep sending it because I'm in your
Todd's like,
garage.
call that number
3
right
nights
now.
a week, dude.
You know that big ass semi that says Kona Longboard? That fucking thing pulled up in my driveway, and he opened that door, and it was filled with beer. And Todd and I were like,
I'm I'm planning my lessons for the next day of teaching, and then this thing shows up, and we're like doing Excel spreadsheets of raffles and this and that.
Then we're like getting cocky, right? Like we call the number, like, yeah, we need 52 cases of beer.
No,
Like, oh, no problem.
Actually, Keith called me up one time and he goes, dude, we need 30 cases of beer. And I go, how are you going to get that? He goes, I'm going to make one phone call.
And then we went and took your truck, remember?
Took my truck, and I'm like, dude, we should have made a movie a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Just for all the Tundra owners out there, like how many? 42 cases of beer will fit in the back of a Tundra.
And then
No
some.
way.
And
A
then
5.5
some.
foot bed, yeah.
Wow. So what's in the future for the fly fishing film tour or films that you guys are going to do? Anything?
It's a great question.
Well, that's a great
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Keith, we'll let you take this one.
Keith,
Well,
go for it, buddy.
after Calico, Vaughn and I peeled off and made
That's right.
a film that did
365.
Salt 365 that did
Yeah.
pretty well.
Okay.
It was kind of that same thing. You know, we were the surfers and Dave surfs too, but Vaughn and I were fishing together quite a bit at that point. And then, you know, it just kind of, we hosted the film tour for another 2, I think that was in, when was that? 14?
414.
And
I
then
would
we
say-
did 15 and 16, and then the tour, I don't know what happened.
Shall we say just stay tuned?
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I think there might be another one in
Is there
there.
another any other kind of films you got
Oh,
going?
yeah, there's other films that we got going. And
You know what? I think we're like, there's a lot of things I think we could be headed towards.
Yeah.
I think like a collaboration of, you know, like the thing about the film tour that's great is it brings a lot of fly guys together.
Yeah.
But I think there's an outdoor
There's
festival in our future where you get like hunters and conventional guys and
Bands.
everybody in bands that come in, right? Like, you know, just people that enjoy the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we'd love to be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
So-
I think you will see that. Like
Yeah.
the fly fishing film tour was awesome, and we still love those guys. The thing's
Yeah.
changed hands like 4 or 5 times, right?
Oh, has it?
Since
Okay.
Chris Kegg and Doug Powell owned it, but and I still think it's good, right?
Yeah.
But I think from what Todd was saying, I think we've expanded our horizon where we think that it could be bigger, right?
Yeah.
It could be like a festival where you bring in other non-endemic people into the fold and have like, I wouldn't say it's a trade show, but it's more of a celebration of brands that have an affinity to the outdoors. So,
Yeah.
you know, Black Rifle Coffee,
Yeah.
Yeti coolers,
There's so much
Traeger
that goes into
grills.
what we
You know what this
right?
dude said to me one time? He's like, dude, I'm going to get the Red Hot Chili Peppers to play with.
No, he will. If he said that, he will.
Just might.
Keith will.
There's so much to go into
I love
what
the
we
chili
all
peppers.
do.
I
Right?
know.
I do too, I know.
That's like a fantasy, right?
The thing is like when you go on a trip, there are so many parts of your trip.
Yeah.
Right? That could be expanded to the whole community, right? We're going to wake up tomorrow. We're going to use our jet boils to make some coffee. Then we're going to go out. We're going to do this. We're staying in a trailer tonight that you've awesomely got it for us.
Yeah.
That company should be involved. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
how many things are involved? Lightener racks, right? I mean, those
Yeah.
are involved. Tapui tents. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 100 things that are involved.
Totally.
So why limit it to like a fly show?
Right.
Why not do it just a big deal?
But
and
it's
get some
more
other
about the
people involved?
celebration of our style of living, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're here. You're more in tune and proximity to the great outdoors, right? Where we're the city guys. Well, AP's up in Bishop now, but
Yeah.
he was Pico Rivera or Whittier, right?
Yeah, Pico
Say
Whittier.
Wood
Same
Pico,
thing, man.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was landlocked, right? He's a
Yeah,
landlocked
man.
fish, right? So at least we're coastal, right? But
Yeah, dude.
but it's like, you know, and Todd and I, you know, would drink beer in my garage, and we'd have
Sometimes.
endless conversations about, like, you know, I have a Benchmade knife in my pocket, and we use the jet boil to make our coffee, and we drink out of Yeti mug. It's like, why hasn't there been like why don't all of these things
Yeah.
come together? Because these are the things that we use
Yeah.
to go fly fishing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and fly fishing, you know, and I have to assume, like, I recently got into archery hunting, and it's like those guys think like we do.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I bet you
I want to do that too, man.
across the board. I bet you a lot of archery hunters. I'll go on the limb and speculate that a lot of archery hunters are fly fishermen, because it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
What fly fishing is to conventional fishing is what archery is to rifle hunting,
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
like it's the same mentality. It's harder. Right, you got to be more skilled. You have to be more.
You gotta get
prepared.
closer to your prey.
Got to get closer. Everything like noise is a big deal, right?
Sure.
And all of those things that you have to be vigilant of. So it's the same mentality, I think.
So it's really funny. Keith and I talk about this quite a bit, and he's a very business-oriented guy, and he goes like, Bill, why is fly fishing not as big as surfing? Surfing is very limited to where you can do it. It's along the coast. Fly fishing is across the nation. So why is fly fishing not bigger than surfing? And it's all, I think a lot of it has to do, and people are going to hate this when I say this, but it's true. Most fly fishing shops, the people that run them are fly fishermen first and business people later, right? If you can get somebody that's completely business oriented and then build a fly shop behind that premise, you're going to do a lot better. And those ideas come about like, okay, what do fly fishermen do? Like you just said, well, they drink scotch. Well, bring in scotch people. They drive cool cars. Well, let's do that, you know. So, and then apply that to everybody within the marketplace. It's not just about the high-end stuff, but it's the people that go out and they just camp and they fly fish. Well, what do? Well, they buy tents. Okay, they buy this, they buy that. So it's a whole new perspective.
Sure.
And the reason that, you know, fly fishing isn't as big as it has been is because people haven't brought those ideas to the forefront.
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that. I mean, totally, right? Like that's what it is. But if you really look at the numbers, right? Like let's look at it from a I don't know, like a static.
Keith's going to get geeky right now.
I'm going to get super geeky, but I'll limit it right now.
Yeah.
But
let's talk fly fishing, man.
There's like, according to the United States Census Bureau, right? There's like 1.7 million surfers in the United States. Okay, so it's all Sunbelt people that live around the coast that actually surf, right?
Right.
Okay, but the surf industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? Like $20-30 billion industry as a whole. Then you have 5.5 million fly fishermen, right? According to the Recreational Boating Foundation, RBFF, right? And those people are guys who go fly fishing more than 14 days a year. So they're considered to be a fly fisherman. 5.5. So we're talking, 3 times the demographic. And I don't know what the number is, but I remember before the pandemic, fly fishing was not on a whole. When you include travel, equipment sales, fly sales, it was less than $1 billion. And I knew this going into the Calico Syndicate, and I knew I cut my teeth in the surfwear industry for the first 12 years of my career. I was in the surf industry. And the surf industry is a bunch of surfers who will try anything, right? So I wouldn't say they're stupid people, but it's like not the most intelligent guy in the room is not going to be a surfer more times than not, right? But they will fucking try anything, right? Like I would go, Todd, I bet you can't take off on a 20-foot wedge bomb on this skimboard. And Todd's like, yo, watch this, hold my beer, watch this, right? Where the fly fishing industry, they'll come up with a million reasons why you can't do that before you even go and try and do it. So I think it's the mentality. But the biggest differentiator, and I think what made the Calico Syndicate successful, right, as an organization.
We broke tradition.
But we sold a lifestyle.
Yeah.
We sold
a different lifestyle.
California beach culture, fly fishing lifestyle that
it.
no one else had seen in the country, right? And that's the surf industry. The surf industry doesn't sell surfboards, they sell the lifestyle. Surfers are cool because they get chicks and go to parties and all that stuff. And what dude in their right mind wouldn't want to be that, right? So
where are chicks at?
None. Because you're fucking a fly fisherman living in Bishop, California, dude. Your odds are really fucking bad, dude.
And we were all married with kids, so we kind of had a disadvantage. So
No, but fly fishermen on the whole are highly intelligent, right? It's this. At the time of the movie, when Scott Hicks and I went to go sell our sponsors, right? We read this report from the United States Census Bureau that said fly fishermen as a demographic are the second highest income demographic, second to polo in the United States. That's
crazy.
It was $167,000 of household income north. And it was gigantic, right?
Does not apply to the Calico Syndicate.
No, it doesn't apply to us. And that's why we had to take a different standpoint, right?
And so, Guy, do you see how our group works?
Yes.
You see how he gets geeky on the flies? And he gets geeky on the economics?
Dude,
like, this is how the shit works. And this is
Todd drinks beer.
Yeah, I do.
So,
and when we all get together, these are the conversations we have. It's honestly,
it's one of the best things
no
ever.
Different than like what we're doing right now.
This is
how
I love it.
We meet in Keith's garage. when Adam lived in town, at least we meet in Keith's garage a couple of times. Maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, and this is what we talk about.
Yeah,
this is
awesome.
it.
And tie flies.
Yeah,
and we work it out, and we
I've
would
got-
disagree, but we agreed on a lot of things that what our deal was different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the end, right, in hindsight, it worked out pretty well.
Dude, I've been like asleep, and I'll get a phone call from this dude. I don't know if you were in your garage or what you're.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
It's from him using my phone is what it is.
Bill always wants to call you. As soon as
I love you, man.
Once we're like 6 or 7 beers deep.
Oh yeah.
Call
Bill's
Guy.
all, I'm calling Guy.
Dude, we called you. We called you from filming the Calico Syndicate. It was at 1 o'clock in the morning on Teresa's porch. Bill's like, let's
Call him.
Call Guy.
what are the odds of Guy being asleep like right now? I'm like 110%.
That was when the weed guard thing happened. That was
that was that same night we called
Adam's
you.
clipping Dave's weed cards, and he's like, "We're calling Guy right now."
Call Hutch. Call Hutch.
Yeah, we called Hutch in Colorado. He answered the phone.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
God love Hutch.
You know what's so cool though, man? You guys, I mean, just to have each other and all the different avenues and expertise and the engineer, the beer drinker, the marketer,
Jesus God,
the whiskey drinker.
Yeah, Vaughn's
Vaughn's,
the fish whisperer.
He's a fist whisperer.
Dave's the technician, right?
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. So, what I usually do when I end my podcast is I ask everybody, what they've been listening to music wise. So, have you guys been listening to anything? We'll start with Bill.
Music wise, I listen to anything that makes me feel good, dude. At the time, it completely depends on my mood. I listen to rock and roll. I listen to country western. I listen to anything.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm
right
all
on.
good.
Cool. What about you, Keith?
Believe it or not, I'm the only Asian surfer from Orange County that you'll ever meet that only listens to country music. So I'm a
It's
huge
so
country.
terrible.
Yeah,
Are you, really?
yeah,
That's
Todd hates
amazing.
it. Yeah.
Don't travel.
I'm a huge country fan.
I like country. Yeah, it's great.
There's a local band in Orange County that I've been listening to a lot lately.
Yeah?
Robert John and the Wreck.
Oh,
I
cool.
think they're based out of like Fullerton,
Right on.
and they're like legit. And,
Cool.
And the Stoneflies.
Nice. Thanks,
Well,
Bill.
and I wanted to say I've not been to one of your deals yet, man.
We're gonna have to do that.
Yeah,
you know?
I gotta
Yeah,
go there.
Absolutely. I'm throwing a rager here, you guys. When everything
Awesome.
clears up, I say this every time. We're going to put a stage right here on the side of the building, fence this all off, beer and all that. You guys are all invited, of course.
Awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay, so most of the stuff I listen to is what I listened to in high school. So I'll tell you, when I turned left off of 395 and I was coming down, I put on Rancid, Out Come the Wolves.
Oh, really?
That's
Cool.
what I listened to the whole way down.
Nice,
Yeah.
man. Right on.
Little, early 90s punk rock. So
Yeah.
that's
I
what I'm
like
into.
Rancid. Absolutely.
Adam's gonna say the church choir there.
Church choir.
Beethoven.
No, you know what? I have to say I'm a total '80s guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Untouchables. Like
Yeah,
I think
oh,
coming
really?
all the way up, I was Untouchables, English beat.
Yeah.
Listen to a little bit of that kind of music. That's
Yeah.
what I dig. I'm a totally just New Order
Really?
'80s
Cool.
gig. That's where I'm at. And so
Yeah.
coming up from Bishop, all of that on Pandora was going on. So
Nice,
I
man.
had
No, AP, you were listening to the Go-Go's on the way up here.
Go-Go's, love the Go-Go's, dude.
Go-Go's.
Come on, man,
Dude, yeah,
that's-
so I've played with Untouchables.
did you?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dude, I know
a few
you're
times.
you're the ska guy, man.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
And Pato, didn't you play with Pato?
Oh,
Pato?
man, I play with Pato a lot. In fact, Pato's trombone player plays in my band.
No way.
Yeah, Skabone. His name's Skabone.
Dude, I love Pato.
Yeah.
See, I've
And-
never really been to one of your shows, man. I'm a total. I love that '80s kind of gig. That ska kind of vibe with Untouchables, the specials, and
I'll have to give you my new album. Have you got it yet?
no.
Oh, well, cool.
See, this is
I've
why.
given you it, haven't I?
I have it.
Yeah.
Hey, guys,
You throw it out the
Why not
window,
get
bro.
it?
Be honest.
I have it in the car.
Oh, okay.
What?
Guy, do
Is
you
it on
have
Spotify?
any video
Adam's
of
pissed.
you playing
I'm not-
He's
in
not getting any
Ventura?
flies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Papanata?
Yeah.
Dude,
No flies for
you
you.
gotta show these guys.
Yeah, I
You
will.
gotta
I'll
these
show.
guys,
I'll
yeah.
definitely show. It's actually, if you go on Facebook and put in Papanata, there's all these videos of us playing.
Really?
Big-
Nice.
That's really
Brilliant, brilliant.
shows.
All
It
right.
was pretty cool. But yeah, we played with English Beat a lot. Steel
Wow.
Pulse.
You did?
Yeah.
My goodness.
What?
Yeah, a lot.
The Stoneflies to the English beat?
Well, Lion Eyes, my band, Lion Eyes and Papanata.
Oh.
Yeah, back in the.
I got the coronavirus at the
90s.
English Beat concert. I did.
You did.
February 2000, I saw the English Beat at the Tiki Bar, and I got the fucking coronavirus.
Wait, in 2000?
2000.
2020.
What the heck? Oh, 2020.
Right before it was the coronavirus, I was at the English Beat.
You were
Really?
in bed for what, 6 days?
6 days.
Oh,
It
yeah.
had a 104-degree temperature for like
You
5
got the
rocked.
virus.
Before everyone knew what it was.
And I could smell or taste for like 6-7 weeks afterwards. It
You
was
got
horrible.
rocked big time.
But at least it was probably a good show.
It's a freaking awesome show.
Yeah, dude.
That's
We're
awesome,
doing
dude.
shots and drinking out of everyone's glasses.
Well, that's why you got the freaking virus, dude.
I got the Rona. Before it was the Rona, so I don't know if it counts.
Well, you guys,
We all got it though.
you guys, thanks for being here, man. You guys, the Calico Syndicate. Super stoked to have you guys here. Thanks for traveling all the way up here and
Thank you for having us, guys.
and being
Thanks.
a part of this whole thing, man. We actually filmed this whole thing, and you guys can see it on YouTube when it comes out. But you guys say bye. Thanks a lot for.
Thank you, guys.
See you
being here,
later,
guys.
man.
Take care, man.
Guys,
Thank
we're
you, bud.
fishing tomorrow, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Thank you, bud.
Thank
You
you.
guys.